Am I the a-hole for exposing my ex to his mother about our kids? I, 45 female, am currently divorced from my ex Thomas, 47 male of 30 years. We ended up seeing a lawyer to help with dividing stuff. Everything was pretty much wrapped up, till he said he no longer wanted any part of our kids' lives, 5 male and 12 female. I didn't argue with him about it, since I already know what it's like having a parent who doesn't want you around, or wants to be in your life. I asked what he wanted me to tell the kids, and he just said, "Whatever you think is best, I don't care. I don't want to parent anymore." Everything was in agreement and signed with no fuss. A few weeks later, I got a call from my ex-mother-in-law asking if we could meet each other. When I came over, she broke down crying and begging to let my ex see his kids again. I was confused about what she meant because not once did he contact me after meeting the lawyer. She went on about how my ex said he really missed them and that I was just a petty witch for taking full custody. Also that he was crying for days about it. I told her my version of events and she called it BS, saying her son wouldn't lie like that, especially not about his kids. Then I decided to call him in front of her. He didn't know she and I were meeting that day. I said, "Hey, 5 male has a soccer game in a few days," which he did, and I was wondering if you wanted to go. I know he'd really love it and be happy to see you. He instantly said, "No, I already said I'm not doing this anymore." I raised my voice a bit saying, "Well, what about holidays and birthdays? Because we never discussed any of it and your family might want to see them." He just said, "My family already thinks the kids aren't mine anyways, so it doesn't matter." I asked, "Well, how do you think this is going to affect Denise, his mom? She's over the moon about them." He just said, "She loves me more than the kids, so I doubt this will be an issue for her." After a bit more talking, we finally hung up. Ex-mother-in-law was straight-faced and nodded at everything that just happened, saying, okay." She asked me to leave and said we would be in touch. Later that day, I got a call from my ex saying how it's my fault he was kicked out of his mom's house and possibly will be taken off her will. Also, that none of his family members will talk to him because of what ex-mother-in-law heard. He threw a lot of insults at me before I hung up, and now him and his mates keep calling and texting me. Even my friend is saying I shouldn't have said anything in the first place, and I ruined his life. Now for the top comments. Not stay home. He had the right to sign off his rights. He did not have the right to paint you in a bad light and make you look to be at fault and evil/manipulative. That's defamation of character. You had the right to set the record straight. His mom had a right to go no contact with her son, a grown man who didn't want contact with his actual young kids. Sounds like he's getting a taste of his own medicine, aka karma. You put it better than I could have, 100%. Not stay home. Your ex-mother-in-law deserved to know what lies her son has been spreading and how little he wants to do with being a parent. Him being mad he was caught is his own fault, not yours. Exactly. Hopefully it works out to stay in contact with Denise. Yeah, I hope so too. The sudden disappearance of their father from their lives is going to be difficult for the children, no matter how their mother tells them. The 5-year-old may not fully understand yet, but the 12-year-old will. If Grandma Denise is a good influence, which it seems like she is from what we know, I hope Opie can find room in their lives for her. She seems to love the children very much. I'm sure she'd love visitation. It may be beneficial to the children too, so they can see they still have family on that side who love them. They're already going to be dealing with feelings of abandonment. No need to make it worse by making them feel that whole side of the family abandoned them too, instead of just their father. Not stay home. He made a decision for which he knew his family would judge him negatively, so he lied and made you the scapegoat. You didn't go seeking out his family to tell them what he'd done. You were blindsided by the whole thing. No way were you obligated to carry that water for him. Not at all. I can't understand how anyone would ever take his side in this. He abandoned his children, blamed you, and now is angry that his malfeasance and subsequent lies have been found out. If I were you, I'd reach out to ex-mother-in-law and see if she would be interested in seeing the kids and maybe having a relationship with her. Unless there are toxic things about her you haven't included. It seems like she'd love to see them, and I'll bet they miss their grandma as well. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my mother-in-law in the delivery room? I'm 18 and this is my first baby. I'm getting induced on Tuesday. I live with my fiancé, male 21, and his mother, female 37. We live in a converted area behind our house. Was a garage, but was flipped into a studio apartment. My fiancé and I have been together for 2.5 years now, and I have lived here for a little over a year. My mother-in-law is very opinionated, which is why I believe we're having these issues. We're having a little boy and decided to name him Carter. My mother-in-law said it's an ugly name. She regularly refers to him as her baby, which also bothers me. She insisted that she gets a baby monitor and a key to our place, just in case we don't wake up. She's even asked to set up a schedule, basically switching my son off between the three of us so that is comfortable with everybody. She's made comments asking if I'd love him more if he was a girl, or if he came out with a condition would I still love him the same. I told my fiancé about this, but he said that is just his mom and she means no harm by it. She is just inquisitive. She has been a part of every single moment of my pregnancy, which I should be grateful for, but I feel suffocated. It's like she thinks this is her baby too, and she's a third parent. Besides referring to him as hers, she's thrown away clothes I bought because they're ugly. She's made comments about how young I am and how she's worried about my parenting skills. She's insisted that she be made emergency contact and be on all of his paperwork as well, such as medical release, etc. This morning at breakfast, she brought up how excited she is for Tuesday and that she can't wait to see her baby be born. I just had enough. I told her that my son wasn't her baby, that it was my baby, and that I'd really prefer if she stays home while I have the baby because I just wanted that time at the hospital to be me, my fiancé, and my son. She started bawling. I ended up compromising. She can come to the hospital but not to the delivery room. She said that's not fair at all. She should be able to see her grandson be born, that I'm ruining a special moment for her. Why can't she be there if they're allowing 2 people, etc.? I apologized and told her I'm just not comfortable with it. And I never told her she could be in the delivery room anyway. She just assumed. She told me that if I don't want her there, then I can leave. But my fiancé told her to stop and asked me to go back to the house. When he came back, he told me that I should consider letting his mom be in the delivery room with me for support. I told him that I didn't need her support. I needed his. I explained that I just wanted some time for just us because we didn't get that the entire pregnancy. He said that he can't support me like she would because he's not a woman and he hasn't had kids. I told him my decision was final. All he said was she's gonna be really upset and that I should have made it explicitly clear from the jump that she wouldn't be in the delivery room. Not stay home. By my math, you're older than she was when she got pregnant with your boyfriend. Remind her that if she can do it at 16, you can do it at 18. I don't know why I haven't said this to her yet, but thank you for reminding me. There's some cannon fodder for you, OP. All kidding aside, she's being emotionally manipulative. You are 100% right. This is not her baby. You'll have plenty of support from ladies who can provide you with all the support you need during delivery. They're called nurses, and they've got more experience here than your mother-in-law can even fathom. You've got this, OP. Good for standing up for yourself. Not stay home. Can you and your fiancé move somewhere else? That woman is way too involved in your lives. I agree with your fiancé that you could have been more upfront, but I'm not convinced his mother would have accepted it earlier on either. It seems like she wants a do-over because she had her own child so young. We've been talking about it. Just don't think we're able to do so now, but we've been looking into cheap apartments. Finding affordable housing is just difficult now. I totally understand that finding housing is hard right now. But if you don't have a come-to-Jesus talk with your partner about his mother and her boundary stomping issues, it's going to get worse. The problem is not your mother-in-law, it's your fiancé. You are having his baby and he is prioritizing his mom right now over you. This is actually shocking. Put a hard stop to this behavior now or it will never end. Don't let these people gaslight you. This is your baby, your delivery, not the a-hole. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for destroying all my ex-girlfriend's data? I had a pretty big breakup a few years ago. We were together for 7 years until she broke up with me in order to sleep with Fat Jesus from the store she worked at. She refused to collect any of her stuff from me. We're talking clothes, books, manga, anime merch still in the box, DVDs, etc. And most importantly, her old laptop. Upon her refusing to collect any of her stuff, I emailed her. Partly so there would be some record of this. Partly because she'd blocked me on most other platforms because me being upset was apparently emotional blackmail. I said that she had until X date to come and collect her stuff, otherwise I would bin/recycle/sell it. I gave her 60 days to come and collect it. She replied telling me to just buzz off and stop trying to find excuses to see her, and that she did not want any of this stuff and that I should do what I want with it. I specifically inquired about the laptop, and she said she didn't care because she had her main computer, and all her files were backed up on a USB stick. I tried explaining before that it isn't backing up if they're the only copies, but she never listened. I contacted her twice from this point, telling her that she had X number of days to collect it. So if she's going to change her mind, then she needs to let me know. As for the laptop, I contacted her after the given date, telling her that I was about to nuke the drives from the laptop and have them recycled. No response. So I did the responsible thing, given that it wasn't my data. I ran DBAN on the drives to completely nuke them and then sent them to drive shredding place. Stripped the laptop down for parts, took what was usable, sold the rest on eBay. Forgot about it until a few weeks back. She messaged me asking if she could have the laptop back, because her USB stick had, surprise surprise, failed, and she'd lost all her photos on there, including the only copies she had of the photos of her mother, who unfortunately passed away a few years back. I told her that, as I said before, the laptop was gone, and I destroyed the hard drives. The data was gone. She absolutely flipped the heck out and told me that I'm a horrible person, and that I knew there were photos of her mother on there. So how/why would I ever do that? She thinks I'm a piece of turd, and was being spiteful, and that there was no reason that I couldn't have kept a copy of her data, as I have a huge storage server to keep it on, and that it would have made basically zero impact to myself. I know she's being unreasonable, but she's right. I have around 96 terabyte of storage on my server. I could have stored her entire laptop's worth of data 100 times over and not even notice. There was no reason for me to not do so other than me not wanting to. I absolutely 100% could have kept the data after destroying the laptop. Am I the a-hole for not holding on to the data at absolutely zero inconvenience to myself, knowing exactly what was on there? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You gave her every possible warning and opportunity to come collect her stuff before you got it out of your life. Her not choosing to take that seriously is on her, as is not taking basic data backup security measures on her own. Frankly, I'm not sure how much you even believe she's genuinely out of luck, versus this being some kind of mind game. Regardless, though, it's not your problem, so take advantage of not having any reason to be in contact anymore and keep moving forward with your life. Oh, sorry, I should clarify. The deadline was a few years ago now. I must have missed that out. Had to cut a lot out to be within AITA's 3,000 character limit. She just got back in contact with me, apparently expecting me to have held onto the data since 2018. I'd honestly forgotten about it, and pretty much her, until she got back in contact. I could have stored her entire laptop's worth of data 100 times over and not even notice. There was no reason for me to not do so other than me not wanting to. That is 100% a valid reason not to keep the data. Keeping it would mean holding on to the relationship and always having her in the back of your mind. Absolutely unhealthy in the context of moving on from a bad breakup. Not the a-hole. If you nuked them right away, I could see her point. But giving someone 2+ months to collect their stuff and then not doing it simply because she didn't want to means that is her fault. Yeah, plus I feel like not nuking them would have been irresponsible. I certainly wasn't going to keep the physical drive sitting around. I've had a huge clear out over the last few years, throwing out a lot of old crap. My ex's old computer certainly wasn't going to be spared, and just binning it without sanitizing the data in any way would just have been putting her data at risk. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for getting mad at my wife's gender reveal prank and ruining the party? My wife is currently pregnant and we are the proud parents of a 2-year-old girl. To be completely honest, this is an accidental pregnancy. I love being a dad, but our marriage hasn't been good for a while, so we didn't mean to bring another child into it. We had a small gender reveal party at our house. There was a small cannon which was going to shoot out blue or pink powder. When my wife took the thing to aim it, she shot the powder all over me on purpose. I was pissed and just turned to glare at her. She immediately looked uncomfortable and tried to laugh. Everyone seemed put off by me not laughing, and a couple people told me to lighten up. I still didn't laugh and just stood there deadpan. I could see my wife getting more and more uncomfortable. When we were away from the crowd, I asked why the heck would she do that, and she got defensive and said it was a prank and she thought it would be funny. I told her she knows I don't like idiotic pranks, and it wasn't. She demanded to know how I could just stand there like that and humiliate her, and I replied that I really don't care if she was humiliated because she chose to behave like that. She began to cry and said she wants to be in a relationship where they can play pranks, and it wasn't a big deal. I've gotten a lot of crap from a few family members, especially her dad, about how I overreacted and made a party uncomfortable. Edit for everyone asking, we are having a boy. Everyone sucks here for having a gender reveal party. And everyone sucks here for being miserable in their relationship and still bringing an innocent kid into this mess. Troubled relationships and divorces happen. What makes or breaks it is how they proceed to find a healthy balance. The mother might have wanted to keep the kid either way. As long as the parents manage to treat each other with respect, the kids will be fine. Everyone sucks here. Y'all need a therapist or a divorce. Or she needs to respect boundaries? She does, but the way he talks about her oozes with contempt. That's the thing you can't come back from. They need a therapist to get them through this pregnancy. I'm betting divorce anyway. Not stay home. I don't know your wife, but I doubt if the roles were reversed, she would think it was funny. I also don't think your guests would have defended you. 100% guarantee that if he was the one aiming the cannon at her, he would have gotten nothing but crap from other people. I hope he didn't react well at all to this, but the wife gets a pass? Just because she's pregnant? Honestly, her little prank reeks of passive aggression. Again, he should have handled it better, but that was an awful thing for her to do. Everyone sucks here. I wouldn't enjoy that either. If she wants to be with someone who likes that stuff, she shouldn't be with you. Forcing you in front of everyone so you'd have to give her the reaction she wants, or so she thought, is super manipulative. I don't understand people who get off on others' distress or ridiculousness, let alone publicly. But you, sir, sound aggressive and intimidating in manner, like you're trying to shame her out of behavior you don't like. I don't care if you were humiliated because you chose to behave like that. There's no way to talk to anyone, let alone your wife. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean she's inferior because she does. It's just a difference of opinion. Your high-handed, morally superior manner is also evidently achieving nothing but making her dig her heels in. She wants someone who likes stupidity. You want someone who will obey you. Neither of you is happy. Why y'all got married in the first place is beyond me. What a toxic couple.
Am I the a-hole for not planning anything for Father's Day after my husband ruined my first Mother's Day? I'm 98.7% sure that I am not the a-hole here, but if I'm wrong, I'm willing to admit it and learn from my mistakes. Our little boy will be one late this summer, so this was the first Mother's Day and Father's Day for both me and my husband. My husband asked what I wanted for Mother's Day. I didn't want or need anything big or expensive. What I asked for was 1. For my husband to get up with the little guy and get him fed while I pumped and relaxed. 2. Breakfast in bed, just toast, scrambled eggs, and coffee. 3. For us to take the little guy to the zoo for the first time. This was the main thing I was looking forward to. 4. Go to my favorite taco place for dinner. Between morning and afternoon naps, we have about 4 hours of awake time. The zoo is about 30 minutes away, so I figured if we left as soon as he got up from his nap and ate, we'd have a couple of hours at the zoo, and worst case, he could sleep in the car on the way home. We took my mom and my mother-in-law out to brunch the prior weekend to celebrate them, his mom on Saturday and my mom on Sunday. I also got them each a thoughtful little present and flowers to celebrate their first Mother's Day as grandmothers. I arranged everything and told my mom and mother-in-law that we'd be celebrating on the actual day with just our little family. I sent them a group chat, which included my husband, my dad, and father-in-law, just to make sure everyone was on the same page. My mother-in-law is very pushy and overbearing, so I didn't want there to be any surprises or confusion. The Saturday before Mother's Day, father-in-law sent my husband a text with a picture of all the mulch he just had delivered and said something like, "Gonna be a busy weekend," or something like that. Apparently, he had 300 bags of mulch. They have a big yard with lots of flower beds. That night, my mother-in-law called my husband and asked him to come over first thing in the morning to help his dad move the bags of mulch to where they were going to be used. She said since we weren't going to the zoo until after the little guy's nap, my husband could go over and help for a couple of hours and then come pick us up to go to the zoo. I was obviously not happy, but she guilted him and said father-in-law was going to end up hurting himself if he moved all that by himself, and that it wasn't a big deal, and should only take an hour or two. I told him his mom was doing this to try and get us to skip our plans and spend the day with them, but he kept saying it wasn't a big deal, that his mom promised it would only take a couple of hours, etc. I think most people can guess what happened. My husband went over first thing, which meant no breakfast in bed, and I had to get up to feed the little guy. I was kinda mad, but whatever. I spent time with the little guy. Then when he went down for his morning nap, I texted my husband to let him know he should start wrapping things up. Then, when the little guy woke up 2 hours later, I called my husband to tell him I'd be ready to go as soon as I finished feeding the little guy. He told me it was taking longer than he expected, but that he'd hurry. Like an hour and a half later, my husband called and said they weren't done, but he was getting ready to come home. It's a 15 to 20-minute drive from the in-laws' house. At that point, we'd missed the window to make it to the zoo, so I told him to just stay there and finish and not worry about Mother's Day, since he hadn't done a single thing I asked for. I don't think there was any doubt in his mind how mad I was. A little later, his mom called and said since we decided not to go to the zoo, that me and the little guy should go hang out with her while the boys finished with the mulch. I admit that I was pretty pissy and told her I had no interest in spending time with the people who decided to ruin my first Mother's Day. I ended up staying home, ordering a pizza, and binging Netflix. When my husband got home, he was all apologetic and asked how he could make it up to me. I was still mad and told him he could make it up by not ruining my first Mother's Day. I also told him he should plan on spending Father's Day with his mom and dad because me and the little guy were going to go celebrate Father's Day with my mom and dad. Since Mother's Day, mother-in-law has been texting and calling, but I've been keeping conversations short and just giving very bland generic responses. My husband has been apologizing and asking what he can do, but honestly, I don't want to bother. I know it's just a day and we can celebrate anytime, like we did with my mom and mother-in-law. But it was my first ever Mother's Day, and it's not like I ask for anything expensive or difficult. The only difficult thing is he's incapable of setting boundaries with his mom, and she's incapable of considering anyone's feelings but her own. This past Saturday, he asked if I was still going to my parents', then said he'd like to go with us. I told him he could do whatever he wanted, but since I hadn't done anything for his dad, he might want to go see him or something. We did both end up going to my parents and spending the day with them. It was actually a nice day. My dad insisted on grilling, because of course he did, but the weather ended up being nice and we spent a lot of time hanging out on their deck playing with the little guy. I'm not sure what, if anything, my husband did for his dad. I know he was getting a lot of texts during the day, I assume from his mom. She did send me a snippy text saying it was hurtful to spend the day with my family at the expense of my husband's, but I told her she got to spend Mother's Day with her baby boy, so it's only fair that I spend Father's Day with my family. I know my husband was hurt that we didn't acknowledge him for Father's Day, but I told him while we were driving to my parents' house that I'm just matching his energy. I admit that I haven't done anything to de-escalate the drama, but I'm still just so hurt that he continues to prioritize his mom's feelings over our little family. This isn't the first time his mom has done crap like this, and I'm just so tired of it. She always oversteps and insists on doing what she wants. I'm doing better at keeping her at arm's length and holding my own boundaries, but my husband is absolutely incapable of it. Not the a-hole. Although, you knew your husband wasn't going to make it by the time your son woke up. Why didn't you just take your son and enjoy the zoo? I really should have. I think I was trying to convince myself he'd come through for us. Lesson learned. Your husband has clearly decided having a pissed-off wife is preferable to having a pissed-off mother. The very first time he knew his dad had bought 300 bags of mulch, does he own Rhode Island or something? Your husband should have said, "Wish I could help you, but we have plans for Mother's Day." When his mom said it'd only take an hour or two, he should have responded, "Our plans are all day. The mulch could have waited." This should be the top comment. The second they tried to ask him for help, he should have said another weekend. Not the a-hole. All you did was match his energy. I think that's what's great about Mother's Day coming first. Not the a-hole. Look at the shiny spine on you. Your husband should take notes. You're a badass, and I wish I had your spunk. Ask him why he'd rather be a good son than a good father. When is his child going to matter more than his mommy's fifis? I'm proud you're not letting her get away with her nonsense. What about Christmas? Birthdays? So far, it's been a lot of the same. Technically, we've tried to alternate holidays or celebrate with one of our families on a different day, but his mom calls and texts nonstop if we spend a holiday with my family. I already told him this Christmas we are spending Christmas Day at home, just the three of us. That should be interesting to see what tricks mother-in-law pulls out. Please show these comments to the mama's boy you married. He needs to man up. He needs to drop hard boundaries with his mommy. This needs to be a serious wake-up call. Nothing Mommy Dearest says should be taken at face value. She is malicious and manipulating. You likely need therapy to address this. Your husband has been under her thumb a long time and needs help to get out. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to cut my hair for my boyfriend's mom's birthday dinner? So I'm 23 female dating this guy, 25 male for about a year now. Let's call him Jake. Jake's family is, well, let's just say they still think it's 1954 and everyone's supposed to dress like they're going to meet the Queen every Sunday. Anyway, Jake's mom is turning 60 and his family planned this big fancy dinner at one of those places where the menu doesn't have prices and the portions look like decoration. Cool, I can play along. But a week before the dinner, Jake casually says, "Hey, my mom asked if you could do something more elegant with your hair for the dinner. Maybe like get a trim or put it up or something less wild." I was like, what? First of all, I have curly hair, like actual curls, not the kind you get from a curling iron. I love my hair. It's big, it's dramatic, it's me. I haven't cut it in over a year because I'm growing it out, and it's finally hitting that glorious lion mane stage. I ask, what exactly did she say? And Jake goes, "She said you're beautiful. She just thinks you'd look more put together with a sleeker style. Like, more presentable." Y'all, presentable. For who? The Queen? The soup that costs $50? I told him nicely, "Look, I'll dress up. I'll wear the heels that make me walk like a baby deer on ice. I'll even avoid cussing for one night. But I'm not cutting my hair because your mom thinks I'm too fluffy." Jake got quiet and then said I was making a big deal out of nothing. And why can't I just compromise to make a good impression? Not the a-hole. Stand your ground and wear your hair any way you want. If this exposes huge red flags in your relationship, so be it. He needs to, 1, be proud of you no matter your hairstyle, and 2, defend you to his mom. Thank you. That really means a lot. I was starting to feel like maybe I was being dramatic, but yeah, I want someone who actually likes me as is, not just when I'm toned down to fit some outdated idea of what looks proper. If my hair is the deal breaker, then maybe it's not just about the hair, you know. And it will never end. She'll always have a reason that you should tone it down. And the boyfriend? Why is he with you if he wants to change you? Red flag time. Cut, not your hair, and run. But not in heels. Haha, I literally laughed at this. You're right though, I'm definitely not trimming myself down to fit someone else's aesthetic. Might just sprint out of there in socks, heels in hand like Cinderella at 11:59. Tell him to tell his mom not to make a big deal about your hair. Why do you have to not make it a big deal? Last story. Am I the a-hole for cutting off all communication with my in-laws after my 6-year-old died? I, 35 female, am married to Ben, 40 male for 12 years. We have 2 children together. My daughter, 4 at the time, was discovered to have a tumor in her abdomen after experiencing 14 months of intermittent leg pain. The doctors couldn't find the source of the pain until they found the tumor. We were scared for our daughter. I was so afraid. I shut everyone out except my mom and husband. My mom drove 8 hours to support us while they went through the diagnostic process. My husband asked his parents to come to support him. They said no because they had to watch sister-in-law's kids. For context, my in-laws live 5 hours away and sister-in-law lived 25 minutes from me. At this time, doctors believed the tumor was benign, so they scheduled the resection surgery for 2 months later. All summer, the in-laws couldn't see our kids because they were always watching sister-in-law's kids since their dad wasn't pulling his weight. Finally, the surgery date came. My mom came again to support us through this huge surgery. The tumor was so large that it took up all of the free space on the right side of her abdomen. The doctor came out of surgery and he told us that he could only remove 60% of the tumor. He believed it looked cancerous, but we had to wait for the pathology report. A few days later, it came back positive for cancer and my daughter had to go through a very intensive treatment plan. She needed 5 rounds of chemo, 2 stem cell rescues, and 6 rounds of immunotherapy. My kids were always close to their grandparents. It was hard when we had to isolate ourselves to protect my daughter from getting sick during treatment. She had a central line and all fevers were an automatic trip to the emergency room. My mother-in-law offered to help us once, but she backed out because she couldn't handle wearing a mask for 8 hours while we worked. In efforts to protect my daughter, we asked that when they come to visit, that they only see my kids to prevent sister-in-law's kids from giving grandma and grandpa a virus that they brought back to my daughter. All throughout treatment, my daughter cried that she missed grandma. They decided that if they couldn't see both sets of grandkids, then they didn't want to come. We tried to compromise and asked them to split their visit. First couple days with my sick child, and then the last days of their stay to be at my sister-in-law's house. They just chose to stay away instead. During the stem cell rescues, we had to isolate my daughter since they literally fried her bone marrow with chemo. She didn't have an immune system for a few weeks, so it was important to protect her. It was limited to my mom and I throughout the 2 stem cell rescues and transplants. When my daughter finally was able to be around people again, they still didn't come around. My daughter was fine for a few months, but she started having leg pain again. I feared the cancer was back. In November, they found the cancer and it spread everywhere. She was in so much pain. She just wanted to be with family and see her grandma. Grandma only came when her sister wanted to meet my daughter. They saw her for a few days after Christmas. My daughter was rapidly deteriorating and she was in so much pain. The ICU doctor told me my daughter was going to pass away and to let family know. I called all those closest to my daughter to say goodbye. They didn't come. My daughter passed away in January. She fought so hard, but she couldn't beat the cancer. I am hurt and angry with them because they hurt my daughter. She may not have realized that grandma and grandpa were not prioritizing their sick grandchild, but I did. She cried so much about missing grandma. They knew she was sick, and she had a high probability of not surviving this. Now, 5 months after my daughter's death, my husband wants me to ignore all of that has happened for him and my son. He tried to talk to his parents, but they just got defensive. He wants me to not address any of this with them, so I have chosen to cut them out of my life every way I can. They are not welcome in my home anymore. I will not interfere with the relationship that my husband or son have with them, but I will not do anything to foster it. That's my husband's responsibility to do that. Now my husband is angry with me and feels that I'm being unreasonable. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. So sorry for your loss, OP. Did your in-laws attend her funeral service? What was that like? They did attend. They also tried to justify when my sister-in-law wanted to talk to me about my daughter's life insurance policy on her deathbed. She sold us the policy for context. The whole family seems to be a-holes. What horrible people. Don't ever give in. It's better to divorce than to be forced to speak with them. But I hope your husband comes to his senses. They weren't like this before my daughter was sick. My sister-in-law has always been an airhead, though. Unbelievable. Did they ever apologize for not seeing her? If they did, it wasn't to me. From what my husband has told me, they don't see any wrongdoing. They took offense when he tried to address it, which was already hard for my husband to do. He avoids conflict as much as he can. They responded, "Wow, nothing we do is enough for you guys." Instead of taking ownership, whether it was intentional or unintentional, they flipped it on him. Honestly, my heart hurt for my husband when this happened. Did you cut your sister-in-law off for asking? There was no excuse to discuss the life insurance of a dying child on their deathbed. I haven't spoken to her since my daughter passed. I'd like to think it came out like word vomit. Thoughtless and awkward, but without ill intent. But I've had enough of that behavior over the past decade with her. At some point, I feel like I'm just making an excuse for her and she's just not worth the time or energy. Am I the a-hole for not having my little sister at my wedding because she accused my little brother of touching her inappropriately to her therapist just to get attention? I, 23 female, have a 16-year-old little sister who was adopted at an older age and came with a lot of trauma. Despite having been in therapy her whole life, it does not seem to be helping. She recently accused my 19-year-old biological little brother of touching her inappropriately, and she even told her therapist, so it became a bigger issue. She has a history of making up stories about every single person in the family to men online. She craves attention, good or bad. This is not the first incident where she accused someone in the family of abusing her and it was all a lie. Since the therapist got her to admit she was lying about my brother, nothing legally happened to him, but he is very traumatized by the situation. I felt awful for my whole family who lives with her and what they all went through. My parents were so sad about it, and my whole family cried together when they told me. I do not think my sister is sorry for what she did, since she has said nothing about it to anyone, and she has not apologized directly to my brother either, and my wedding is only weeks away now. I do not feel comfortable having her there. I just want the wedding to be a happy day where everyone there is comfortable, loves and wants the best for the groom and me, and that no one will maliciously do something to destroy it. I feel she needs to rebuild trust with me, and it will take time. Am I the a-hole for not trusting her? Now for the top comments. My younger sister once accused me of being drunk and aggressive to her. She was about 13. I was not drunk nor aggressive, yet social services had to get involved and investigate. I haven't been alone in a room with her since. If it's me and another responsible adult, I'm good. If the other adult leaves the room, so do I. She's 16 now. My job relies on me not having a criminal record, and I can't trust her not to lie. So I refuse to put myself in that situation. She never apologized, never admitted she lied. It was only the testimony of other siblings that said I was sober and didn't touch a hair on her head or even raise my voice. Not the a-hole. You can love someone and not like them very much. You can love them and not trust them. I'm so sorry this happened to you. I completely agree with you. You can love someone but not trust them or not like them because of their lies. Not the a-hole. Honestly, you're going to have a conversation at some point on if you can even trust your little sister moving forward. I would personally not invite her to the wedding where there will be drinking and giving her perfect opportunities to make up stories about some random guest touching her inappropriately and such. Yep, OP has an obligation to protect her wedding guests from the attention-seeking lies of this child. Simple as that. It isn't safe for her guests to have her at the wedding. Additionally, OP should avoid bringing her husband to family events where the girl will be. Maybe just agreed to spend time with her in the company of their mom, like a lunch date once a month or something. She may well have been traumatized before she came to the family. It's good that she's in therapy. One of the things therapy should focus on is consequences for actions. Not going to this wedding and her whole family not trusting her are consequences of her current choices. Poor girl. I hope she gets the help she needs. Not the a-hole. But OP cannot ever let your husband to be anywhere near your sister. She might accuse him for revenge. If anyone gives you grief about that, just remind them what happened to your brother and how he is still traumatized and now scarred for life by her actions. You never want that to happen to your spouse, who you love. I wish more people understood this. I was falsely accused, and it's terrifying because for so many people, it's an automatic guilty verdict. I luckily have a lot of good friends who knew it was bull, but it completely ripped my life apart. The girl was a BPD nut job, trying to alienate a good friend I had known for over a decade. It worked. But surprise, surprise, turns out she was a manipulative, abusive POS. She had false claims on 3 other people from where she lived before. She got him to go to all my family and friends spreading these lies that I assaulted her. And it's frankly disgusting how many didn't even give me a chance to defend myself. My mate deteriorated mentally from the abuse into an alcoholic mess who regularly drinks enough to be crying in public bathrooms. And it's just extremely sad. Then when it was all over and the truth came out, all the friends trickled back into my inbox like nothing happened. Nah, how can I trust you after this? Like I said, it completely ripped my life apart. Nowadays, I never let myself be alone with any woman I don't completely trust. It's just not worth it. Of course, despite 4 false claims I know of, there's zero accountability for her and she will probably do it again. Because why wouldn't she? I've talked with a lot of other guys with similar stories. And it's mentally traumatizing, especially for those who don't have the truth come out. Next story. Am I the a-hole for asking my sister to leave because she brought people into my house? I, 26 male, live in a 1-bedroom apartment. I work remotely, and I prefer to keep to myself. My younger sister, 22 female, graduated college a few months ago and moved in with me temporarily while she applies for jobs and gets on her feet, since our parents moved south when we both left the house. We've always gotten along pretty well. The only thing I made clear when she moved in was that I'm not okay with people coming over. I don't host, ever. I don't care if it makes me weird, I just don't feel safe around unfamiliar people in my space. I told her that early on, and she said she understood. This weekend, I got back from a walk and there were 3 people I didn't know sitting on the couch. One of them was drinking from my mug. They were laughing, watching a show, super casual like this was their place. My sister just waved like it was no big deal and said, "Hope you don't mind." I didn't say anything. I turned around and left. I was outside for like 2 hours just walking. When I got back, they were gone. I told her I can't do this. I said I'm sorry, but I need her to start looking for another place to stay. She got really upset and said she didn't think it would be that big of a deal, that they were only there for an hour and they weren't loud or messy. I told her it's not about that. It's about how it made me feel in my own home. I don't think I should have to feel like a guest in my own space. Now she's staying with a friend for a few days, and my parents are mad. They say I'm being extreme and ungrateful, and that I should support her while she's trying to get her life started. They said my sister called me embarrassing, but I honestly don't know what else I could have done. It's not about punishing her, I just don't feel safe when stuff like this happens. So yeah, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You set a clear boundary and she straight up ignored it. Just this. It's not about being a bad host. It's about respect. She treated a clear boundary like a casual suggestion. If she can't respect a very simple and reasonable boundary, she can't expect to stay rent-free. OP didn't blow up. He handled it with grace. She's lucky he didn't throw everyone out on the spot. How are your parents trying to say you're being extremely ungrateful, as if you're not the one providing for and supporting her? It's the gaslighting for me. Who are they expecting you to be grateful toward? They're gone. You pay your own way. Unlike her, that doesn't even make sense. Not the a-hole. You aren't obligated to house her. You chose to be kind. She took advantage of the one rule you gave her. Her "hope you don't mind" comment implies that she hadn't forgotten that rule and was aware you'd likely be upset, and then also doubled down and called you embarrassing. Not the a-hole. Your house, your rules. You are clear about those rules. Whether she thinks it's weird or not, doesn't matter. I seriously don't understand how people cannot grasp this concept. I once helped out a friend of over a decade who needed emergency housing for him and his kid. Spoiler, it wasn't an emergency. We later found out that he just ignored his parents when they told their almost 40-year-old son to find his own place because they were moving, giving him at least 6 months' notice. Rules were simple: no guests, clean up after yourself. That was pretty much it. First day he moved in, less than 5 hours in the house, and he has his ex-wife over. His ex, who no one likes and no one wants around due to her behavior. He showed off our home like it was his, and he was giving a guided tour, which also made no damn sense because she had been at our place before. Told him he broke the rules of his lease and it was not okay. He lost his mind. His ex got involved and said it was a stupid rule. I pointed out, stupid rule or not, he agreed to it and signed the contract. She made it known she wouldn't respect the rule of no guests. Guess who had the biggest surprised Pikachu face when served with an eviction notice? Yeah, this guy. He even called the cops and fabricated some BS story to have them harass one of my family members at the house who has severe cognitive issues. He planned the timing for when no one else was home. Absolutely abhorrent. This was how he repaid us for helping him and his kid, who actually had his own bed for the first time in 10 years instead of sleeping with daddy. Used to love my friend. Now I wouldn't waste my piss on him if he was on fire. The entitlement of some people is unreal. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding even though I promised 2 years ago? When I, 32 male, was 23, I came into a bit of money from a tech startup I was part of. I wasn't rich by any means, but it was more than I ever thought I'd see at that age. Around that time, my little sister, now 29 female, was going through a rough patch emotionally and financially, and I told her one day, half joking, half serious, "When you get married, I got you. I'll pay for it." At the time, she teared up and hugged me. She never forgot it. Fast forward to now, she's engaged and planning her wedding. She reminded me of that conversation and said she started booking things, venue, photographer, dress, etc., assuming I'd cover it. Here's the thing, I'm not in the same financial situation anymore. I left tech and now run a small business. Comfortable, but not flush. On top of that, I recently had a kid and bought a home with my partner. Money's tighter. When I told her I couldn't cover the whole wedding, especially not the $30,000 plus she's planning, she flipped. She said I lied and used her emotions back then. I offered $5,000 to help, but she says that's insulting and not what I promised. Now my parents are saying I've embarrassed her because she told everyone her big brother was paying. Some relatives think I should honor my word even if it's hard. My partner thinks it's ridiculous and says it was clearly an emotional promise, not a legal contract. So, am I the a-hole for backing out of something I said I'd do years ago, or should I be held to it no matter what? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Withdraw your offer of $5,000 and tell her to figure it out 100% now. She's a big girl, an adult even, and has to pay for things. The promise was nearly a decade ago. I promised my siblings I'd be famous. And well, I promised my siblings I would be the next Tolkien. They are still waiting for a manuscript, haha. My wife and I got married without a wedding because we didn't want to waste $50K on a bunch of old people we don't care about, lol. We are trying to save to buy a home now. I got married 4 years ago for about $5,000, so OP's offer would have paid for my whole wedding. She's an adult. She should have had an adult conversation with OP before she had ever started planning. She's being an entitled and apparently braggadocious bitch, telling everyone her brother is paying for her $30,000 wedding without so much as a conversation with him is ridiculous. Not the a-hole. People make emotional promises all the time, especially in the context of family and during tender moments. Your life circumstances have changed, and she should have confirmed with you before dropping 5 figures based on a decade-old half-joke. You're offering something, not abandoning her. She's acting entitled, and frankly, it's wild to assume someone owes you a wedding just because they once said something nice during a rough patch. Spending other people's money is so easy. A simple conversation between brother and sister would have avoided this mess. All she had to do was remind him of his promise to help, ask if he's still able to help, and ask how much he's willing to give her. Then she will plan accordingly. He was 23 when he made that promise. What OP's sister should not have done is start planning an extravagant event at his expense. Now she's embarrassed herself and has to cut back on her spending. But that's the price of entitlement these days. OP's parents can alleviate the sister's humiliation by paying for the wedding themselves. Shaking my head. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter-in-law that I will never be her mother and to leave me alone? This is mostly about my daughter-in-law, Kat. Her mother ran out on her when she was a child and she went into foster care. According to my son, she's currently seeing a therapist. My issue with Kat is that she has repeatedly stomped on my boundaries. She's a very touchy person, and she refuses to call me by my name and only refers to me as Mom. I correct her every time since I'm not comfortable being called Mom by her, and I want her to use my name. There have been multiple times where she's asked inappropriate questions, mostly about why I'm not close to my own mother. For context, my mother was horrible. Kat keeps pushing for details and insists I should get closer to her because family sticks together. She basically tells me to forgive my mom, and she doesn't understand not being close with one's parents. I've told her to drop the topic multiple times, and she refuses. Because of all this, I'm not a huge fan of hers. I've spoken to my son about it, and he asked me to be patient. I've also talked to Kat multiple times and asked her to respect my boundaries. She always says she will, but then goes right back to ignoring them. This is where I might be the jerk. My daughter Sam, 20, and I are taking a weekend trip. Sam has a medical issue and needs to see a specialist a few states over. She hasn't disclosed the issue to the rest of the family yet. She plans to when she has a firm plan. Somehow, word about the trip got back to Kat, and she called me asking why she wasn't invited. I told her it's an important trip and not a fun one. She accused me of lying, claiming it was a mother-daughter trip that she was excluded from. I told her again this is not a girls' trip. She wouldn't let it go and started demanding that she come, saying that she's my daughter and needs to be there. I said no again. She kept insisting, saying I am her mom and she has to come on this trip since she is my kid. That's when I snapped. I told her I will never be her mother. Just because she married my son does not make me her parent. I told her to leave me the heck alone, and that even if this was a mother-daughter trip, she still wouldn't be invited because she isn't my kid. I then hung up. My son says I need to apologize and invite her, that I am a huge prick to her, that I was way out of line and need to make it up to Kat. The situation has spread to the rest of the family, and everyone seems to have their own opinion. Sam is getting flack too, which isn't helping, especially since she doesn't want to disclose the reason for the trip yet. Am I being an a-hole and need to apologize, even though those are my true feelings on her trying to make me her parent? Not the a-hole. Your daughter-in-law is trying to use you to heal her mother wound, instead of trying to build a relationship with you organically. She sounds insufferable, to be honest. That's 100% what she is doing. She is trying so hard that she is pushing people away from her. No one wants to be around someone who stomps on your boundaries and doesn't show basic respect to you. It isn't rocket science to call someone what they want to be called. Keep your hands to yourself, or not bring up sensitive topics. Just reading about this level of boundary stomping was triggering my fight or flight response on a visceral level. I feel awful for Kat and hope she gets help, but OP has been patient much longer than I would have managed and is absolutely not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You don't just have a daughter-in-law problem, you also have a son problem. He is clearly enabling whatever Delulu world she lives in. Keep enforcing your boundaries.